Hey everyone, it's Les from Comfortable Shoes Studio. We're back with another episode of Art Making, a chat while I draw. I am again drawing from a photo from Earth's World on Instagram. Um, their, Instagram account is a fantastic place to get images to sketch from. And if you're interested in drawing real looking people from the real world, their account is fantastic. They get a lot of contrast in the light and the shadows, and the faces just really pop off the screen, and that makes them a joy to draw from. So yeah, check out Earth's World over on Instagram if you're looking for photos to draw and sketch from. In this video, I am using a Platinum Meteor fountain pen loaded with a water-soluble ink from J. Urban. It is the Emerald de Chivor. It's one of their specialty 1670 ink line. I think it was 1670. Anyway, it's a green, blue, tealish ink with a red sheen on some papers. It also has some gold flecks to it, which is really pretty. It's a fantastic ink. It's not great in this fountain pen because of the metallic flecks. It does have a tendency to clog a platinum preppy like this, or the feed of a preppy, or the feed of a meteor. I'm also going to end up using a Sailor Fude pen for details a little later. It is inked with a sketch ink Roar and Klinger latte black ink, which is fantastic. I'll be using a Uniball Bold 207 in white to add in some whites later. A 15 millimeter black paint marker to block out the background later, and a water brush to lift that water soluble ink and create the shading in this image. And so, the thing that I want to talk about is process over product. My focus as I've been working on these portraits is the process of making the portraits. I am attempting to learn more about drawing portraits, about how a face looks as I'm drawing it, where to add details, where not to add details, the shapes of people's faces, the shapes of noses, eyes, and mouths, and also as I'm drawing, like how much information can I fudge? How much information in a face can I kind of block out? How much information can I tweak it? Kind of like a caricature, but a little more about the vibe than a caricature, and maybe with a tad more realism to it. How can I do that and still capture the essence of the person's face? How far can I go and have it still look like the person I'm attempting to draw while capturing the vibe and not focusing on photorealism? So that's part of the process here is that capturing the vibe and looking at the shapes of the faces, shapes of the neck, and all of that, and the parts and pieces of the face, as well as the play of light and shadow within someone's face. Now, um, in this case, I'm also focusing on using a slightly different technique than I have been using. So one of the things you may have noticed if you've been following this series is that I'm primarily using pen and ink. So I'm either using a ballpoint, rollerball, or gel pen or fountain pen. I'm using one of, like, it's always a pen and it's always ink in some form or another. And part of that is I really truly believe if you can't erase your lines, you get more confident in your lines because you're understanding, where is that line going to go? What is it going to look like? Also, in terms of the process of this, if it doesn't look good where I put it, then I just draw where it should be. And in this case, I'm also using a water brush to lift that water soluble ink and move it around on the page to get lights and darks and shadows. I would not recommend this water brush. It came in a pack of 4 from the Michael's Recollections brand. So it is the Michael's House brand. It is terrible. It is one of the worst water brushes I've ever used. I've used a lot of different brands. I've been getting water brushes for like 15 or so years. This one is particularly hard to get the water to come out. I don't know if you can see, but I'm like gripping it so hard with my thumb. My thumb is turning white in areas because the water flow is just that bad. This technique does require a nice wet brush. I probably would have been better off using a regular paintbrush over this brush. So anyway, I don't recommend these water brushes. Save your money, get a different brand. But anyway, going back to the process versus product. In my art journal, I'm primarily focused on process. I'm primarily focused on learning. The product is a byproduct of that process. What I'm doing is I am exploring the process so that later I can create a product. For me, that's the focus of my art journal is the process of things, is the exploration of techniques, the exploration of materials, and not focusing so much on the product. But, if I end up with a nice portrait, then that's great. That shows that I'm learning more about the process of making portraits. And that's really this whole series of images that I've been working on has really been about further solidifying my skill in drawing portraits. For me, drawing a portrait never gets boring. People, their faces are always interesting to me. And there's always something else that I can learn as I'm drawing a face. Whether I'm using a fountain pen, I'm using a pencil, I'm using mixed media sticks. That there is something really great about drawing faces, and that just works for me. I know that's not going to be helpful for everyone, but for me, it's really a great tool for the process. And I think it's even process based when I'm making backgrounds, because especially with backgrounds, it's very much about the process of making the background, scraping the paint, scraping the ink across a page, putting ink onto bubble wrap, and then pressing that onto the page of the art journal. All of that is about the process of making art. And, I'm not necessarily making notes when I'm doing this. There are times when I am making notes about the process of making art. If I am thinking about doing a class, or I'm thinking about doing a particular process with my students, then I am taking notes on the process. I'm looking at what I'm doing very closely, and I'm really being thoughtful and specific about what I'm doing. And in the case of something like that, then the class is the product that I'm working on. The art is not. So in this art journal, it's really all about process for me and not the product. If I end up with a nice product, it's really nice. But if it's not a nice product, then... And by product, I mean art piece. Like if the finished artwork is not what I'm hoping for, it's not what I'm looking for, it's not a big deal. I can always draw on top of it. I can collage on top of it. And really, I don't tend to do that. I tend to look at these as, okay, I learned this here. And I just move on to the next page. It doesn't irk me. It doesn't bother me. And I know it does bother some people, and that's okay. But yeah, for me, it's all about the process. And that is what really makes my art journal sing for me. That's what makes it really useful for me. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you for being here. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found something interesting, either in the conversation or the art that I've been making on this page. I appreciate you being here. Give me a thumbs up, like, or leave a comment, whatever works for you. I appreciate it all. Thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.